Well, one of the most exciting things that happened for us was that we had a very strong enrollment, which is obviously always good. We've been growing for a number of years, and for a few years we were growing pretty rapidly. We've always been able to keep up with that growth, but last year we continued to grow, but we just didn't grow quite as much. And of course, you know, some years you'll have more graduate students, and some years you'll have less adult students, but overall our enrollment was very strong last year, and we just found out this summer, based on the new statistics that came out from the South Carolina Independent Colleges and Universities organization, that Anderson actually had the highest enrollment of any of the private universities in the state, colleges and universities. And we still have the largest number of merit scholarship recipients. Most of our merit scholarship recipients are Palmetto Fellows, Life and Hope recipients. But the importance of that is that we have a lot of students who are getting merit scholarships, and they're coming to Anderson in great numbers.
How many students do you have?
We had last year roughly 3,500 students. One other thing that I would say, and I think this is a significant accomplishment because we've not ever had this happen before in our history, is that we had more Palmetto Fellows, which is the top scholarship that's provided by the state of South Carolina that students can use anywhere in South Carolina at a public or private university. We had more Palmetto Fellows than every private school in South Carolina except for one.
Explain to people who don't understand academia why that's important to get those kind of students into your school.
Well, we're very careful at Anderson. We don't present ourselves as an institution that is trying to be an elite institution. In other words, we don't just take the top 1% of the high school class. So we serve a lot of students in the spectrum of academic achievement, so to speak. But what's so significant about the larger number of Palmetto Fellows coming to Anderson is that we're attracting a very good share of students in the state who do come from the top 6% of their class. They also have to have, I think, a 3.5 GPA and a 1200 SAT. Or if they don't have in combination those three things, they can also have just a single score of 1400 on the SAT to get in. And of course, it's good to have those students here, even though not all of our students are Palmetto Fellows. It's good to have those students here because they're an important part of the mix.
What about some other areas of growth that people may have noticed that around just driving by that y'all have grown here over the past year?
Well, one of the things that people in the community tell us all the time is they appreciate how beautiful the campus is, and I appreciate them saying that, because we do really try hard to make this one of the more beautiful places in South Carolina. But I think that certainly we continue to make that contribution to the community. But we have acquired some additional property around the campus. We try to do that when we can do that at a fair price. And this past year we were able to acquire the what people in our community call the Rainey Home, and that's a nice addition. That's become our development office, and we're grateful to the Rainey family for working with us on that. One of the things that people here in Anderson may not see, but is a huge accomplishment for us, is that we started our Doctor of Physical Therapy program last year. We do offer several professional doctoral programs, and this is one that is highly competitive. We have about the ability to recruit about 28 students per year, and they come from both Anderson University as well as other universities. and that program is located at the University Center in Greenville. We have a wonderful relationship and a presence in Greenville. They're at the University Center, and so we have our physical therapy faculty dedicated to that campus, and so the students come here for some of their courses, primarily anatomy and human dissection courses, and then they take the balance of the courses in Greenville where our PT labs are located. So that's very important. As we develop that program over the next 3 years, we'll have probably a total of up to 84 students in that program.
That's a really growth field too. I mean, that area is demanding more and more professionals.
Yes, there are a number of indicators that would suggest that we're going to need more and more physical therapists, and we saw that as an opportunity that we could step in and fill that need, and so we've done that. We have continued to develop our athletic campus this past year. One of the things that is happening right now, as a matter of fact, is the soccer field is being prepared to get a layer of turf in a few days, and we will also begin playing lacrosse on that field next fall. We've hired a lacrosse coach, and we wanted to add that sport, and that will diversify our student body by bringing in some students from outside of South Carolina, but particularly the Northeast. So we're excited about that.
You mentioned medical thing. The nursing program scores were high this year, and
yes, I don't have the exact scores, but I believe that we were in the top 2 or 3 nursing schools in the state in terms of the passage rates for the nursing exams, and we're always very pleased when that happens. We've been very pleased with the success of that program and the impact of that program really on the community. We always hear positive responses from patients and healthcare providers about our nursing graduates. They're really outstanding and making us very proud. One of the things, as I said, is we'll be building this new lacrosse program, and so that's going to add a lot of excitement to athletics on the campus and just the spirit of the campus in general. We will begin renovation on the old cafeteria that we used to enjoy for over 100 years. As most people in the community realize, we have a new student center, and the students are enjoying that very much, and so we moved our dining hall there. But we have some wonderful space in the first building on campus, the Merit building that we're actually in right now. And we're going to take the space that was formerly used by the dining hall, both the seating area, the private dining room that we refer to as the Agnew dining room, as well as the kitchen. And we're going to be adding a rear facade to that building. We'll actually take off the kitchen part of it and be redesigning that so that the back of the building will, over the next few months, be transformed into looking like it's just another front of the building, but it will be actually what we used to refer to as the back of Merit. And that's going to be helpful because actually when we built the new student center, we located it in such a way that we could begin to build an internal quadrangle so that we would have academic buildings around a green space, and so that's what we're working on now. And so over time, all the buildings that are facing that internal quadrangle that look like rear entrances will get a transformation. They'll get facades that will make them look like front entrances, and actually will function as well as a front entrance to the building for students coming in from that direction. So that's going to happen this year. We did add a parking lot this year. We call it a parking orchard because it has trees and that type of thing in it. But it will house or accommodate rather 196 vehicles. We did remove, I think, 20 spaces on campus that was located toward the interior of the campus. We made that green space, and so I think we netted out about 176 spaces altogether. And everyone from faculty to students, of course, are very excited about that additional parking space on the campus. So that's a good improvement as well. We're constantly looking at new academic programs. That's something that we feel very strongly about, is that we, as a comprehensive university, you always have to be evaluating what society needs in terms of educational programs and trying to meet those needs. And of course, Anderson is one of the leaders in terms of the private institutions in particular that makes a lot of its offerings for adult students and graduate students online. So we're constantly looking at the online market and trying to find out what the needs are there, anticipate those needs, and begin to develop programs to meet those needs as quickly as we can respond to them. So we'll be doing that. We'll continue that. And I think we'll have some pretty exciting programs that will be introduced in the next year or so. We have most of the typical sports that you would find on a college campus. We're NCAA Division II, and the heart of NCAA Division II is looking at the student athlete as a student first, and really helping them to build their athletic experience around not only just their success athletically in college, but their success academically. So that when they leave Anderson, they graduate, then whatever they have studied in their discipline, they can be employed in that area when they leave the institution. But it's a well-rounded approach. We don't focus on trying to use our students as just athletes that perform and entertain us, but as members of our community who are engaged in athletic competition that everyone enjoys, but at the same time being very serious about helping them to develop their disciplinary content and their abilities and skills, so that when they leave, that they can then move on to leadership positions in whatever discipline that they study. But to get back to your question about the various sports, we have basketball, men's and women's basketball, men's and women's golf. We have track and field, have cross country, and both men and women participate on those teams. Have women's volleyball. We have tennis. Did I mention tennis earlier? Men's and women's tennis. We have baseball, and we have softball for women. We did have wrestling, and made a strategic decision to eliminate that program. It doesn't mean that we'll eliminate it forever. It may be back at some point, but right now we felt that was the best decision that we could make for both the university and for the student athletes involved in that program. But we're considering some other athletic programs here. One of the things that has surfaced here recently has been the idea of the men's volleyball team and the idea of cyber sports. We haven't ruled some of those things out as well. And of course, the perennial question is, are you ever going to have football? And
I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
And I think the best answer to that question is that we don't have plans to not have football. But for us, we want to start, if we ever do start football here, we want to start it from a position of strength, and we believe we're in a position of strength right now, but we want to make sure we're in a position of strength because it is an expensive program.
It's very expensive, isn't it?
And it is, and it is. There are some controversies with football these days, so we want to make sure that if we ever do that we study it well and make sure that we are able to start it and it be successful and it not be a financial drain on the institution. As a matter of fact, when I first came to Anderson almost 17 years ago, one of the first visits I had was from a small group of people in the community who really wanted to see if they could convince the new president to start football right away. And I told them, I said, we appreciate your interest and all that. And I said, if you have a check for about $5 million ready to give us, then we'd have to seriously consider starting football. But until we have that, it's not something we would we would consider. But if the timing is and the circumstances are ever right, and we have that kind of interest in that sport, we may even take a look at that. But it's not something that we have said that we would or wouldn't do. It's interesting that you ask that question, because sometimes people assume that when you come to a private, particularly a private faith-based institution, that you may not have the same kinds of opportunities on that campus that you would on other types of campuses. And the answer really to that question is that we have more activities on this campus that any student can possibly be engaged in. Any one student can possibly be engaged in. We have events every weekend. We have events every week. We have a very robust student life program. We have staff in the area of student activities, and all they do is plan activities for students. So not every student is going to be interested in every offering of activities each week, because we try to meet a lot of interests. But it's an exciting place to be for a student, we think. And we think it's also exciting to be in Anderson. Anderson is not our state's largest city, but it is a very robust and growing city, has a lot to offer, and is very attractive for students. Students these days are more interested in going to a university that has plenty of commerce and restaurants and activities in the area around the campus, much more so than they've ever been. And so we are blessed to be in a city that is growing and as robust, and that welcomes students and treats them well in our community. Yeah, we still have the traditional weekly campus worship program. Some colleges used to call it chapel. We don't call it chapel. We call it campus worship. And that's every Wednesday at 10 o'clock. And every student has the opportunity to come to that. Every faculty or staff member really has the opportunity to attend that as well. We believe that that's important to give people an opportunity to grow spiritually and be nourished spiritually. It's not something that's forced upon them, but it is something that we want them to have the opportunity to get from their experience at Anderson and from their work experience at Anderson if they're employees. We do require actually students to go to chapel not chapel, but campus worship every week for at least 8 times out of a semester. But we give them the opportunity of choosing when those 8 times will be, so they can decide if they really need to be studying that day, or if they need to be in a worship service. But beyond that, we have lots of activities on campus through our campus ministry division. We have lots of activities that really are not geared toward one a spiritual denomination or the other. It's just designed to be a spiritual growth opportunity for students of all backgrounds. And so we'll offer those activities like Bible studies. We'll offer mission trips students go on. That's something that this generation of students is very interested in. They're interested in going and serving, and not just going somewhere and speaking and talking, although that's a big part of it too, but they're interested in going places and helping people. And so some of those opportunities are right here in the Anderson community in South Carolina. Some of them are in other parts of the country, and some of them are in other parts of the world. And so those are tremendous opportunities for students to broaden their own experience while at the same time serving in the name of Christ. And so we're going to continue to support those opportunities as well. But there are a lot of things on campus that happen that are not necessarily orchestrated or programmed by the university. They're just things that students decide to do, like to have a Bible study in their residence hall or in their the home that they're living in the community, and sharing that as a ministry opportunity with the other parts of the campus. So there's plenty to do in that area. Some of it is intentional, some of it is just serendipitous, but the one thing I think that fuels all of that is the fact that we are very sincere about being the Christian university that we were founded to be back in 1911, and even before that, in 1848, Johnson University was the inspiration for Anderson, the founding of Anderson College in 1911. So we trace our history all the way back to that, and it was a Christian institution as well. But we're very sincere about that, and we try to do it in a way that we're not legalistic or dogmatic, but we just are very sincere about it, and we give opportunities to students to grow in their faith if they choose to do that, and it's a very important dimension of Anderson University, and our students really are at the center of that activity. There are many things I think that contribute to the quality of life for a region, for a city, a county. And I think that the great majority of people in Anderson County and the city of Anderson understand and appreciate and wholeheartedly support the university's presence here. And we're very grateful for that. We feel very supported and very encouraged by our local community, and I'm so very grateful for that. But I think we offer some things that people maybe don't realize, and we have an impact that people don't necessarily, they know that we're here, but they don't really think in terms of, well, what is the economic impact of Anderson, for instance? We've just done an economic impact study. We haven't released it yet, but we will be releasing it here very soon. And we have just found that the new economic impact of Anderson is over $300 million a year, Anderson University. We know, for instance, that if you break that down into small parts of the university, for instance, the residence halls that we have on Boulevard, one of those residence halls over a 4-year period of time will hold students who will spend in this community at least, but probably more than $500,000 a year on goods and services in the city and county of Anderson, beyond what they spend for tuition, room and board at Anderson University, because they buy gas in the community, they buy clothes, they buy entertainment, they buy food. They're consumers of everything, especially coffee. And so they have a huge impact on local businesses in the community to the tune of about $300 million a year. Another thing that we do that people sometimes don't really know, or maybe they assume the opposite, is that we do contribute a good deal to the tax base of Anderson County. There's really only one kind of tax that we don't pay, and that's property tax. We don't pay the property tax because we're a charitable organization. But we do pay the other kinds of taxes that everyone else pays. We pay income taxes to the state, and we pay income taxes to the federal government. Those taxes come back to us and have an impact on our community. We pay local sales tax and state sales tax on things that we buy. South Carolina is one of the states that does not exempt charitable organizations from sales tax. I think we provide now over 700 jobs to the county, and not all of those are full-time. Some of them are part-time, but we have the highest employment that we've ever had. Even during the recession, we didn't go backwards; we went forwards. We added jobs. We didn't take any jobs away during that time. So those are some of the things. Beyond that, we certainly contribute, I think, to the community by bringing some very educated people to live and work in our community. Our faculty members, most of whom have terminal degrees, I think contribute to the intellectual vibrancy of our community and the intellectual capital in our community. They serve as a resource for local businesses and charitable organizations, and they're also active in our churches and then active in our community organizations and civic organizations, as well as just being good neighbors. And they have children and send them to school, and they're big consumers in our county. But they're also we also offer some things here that the community consumes, like the fine arts. We do offer a lot of wonderful arts programs. We have the South Carolina School of the Arts here at AU, and it's a very selective music program that is actually not just music, but music and theater, ceramics, graphic design, and some other disciplines that bring a lot of talented, very talented students here to the community. And those students not only perform on the AU campus, but they perform at Greenville Theater, they perform in some of the independent theaters here in town and around the region. We have a lot of musicians who go to school here who play for private parties and things like that. Businesses, particularly those who are hiring people and bringing in people from outside the area, are going to want to oftentimes relocate to an area that does have colleges and universities in the area. And we have a number here in our region, and they're all wonderful institutions and serve great purposes. We feel that Anderson University is one of the premier universities that we have, particularly private comprehensive universities. And so we think that that Anderson, the city of Anderson, the county of Anderson benefits greatly from having a very high quality post-secondary institution in right here in the city. There are many cities that would love to have a college or university in them for lots of different reasons, but we feel like we give a lot back to the community. At the same time, we feel like the community gives us a lot. And it's a great relationship that we have, but it's a two-way relationship. It's not one side. We're going to continue to be very committed to the mission that our institution was given over 100 years ago, and that's to be a very high-quality academic institution that's faith-based. And we're going to continue to try to be better tomorrow than we were today, and to be a beacon in our community. We emphasize on our campus very much, particularly with our students, but really everyone, that civility is something that is very much needed in society today, and was one of the things that our society was built upon, but is very lacking in many places and dimensions and quarters of society today. And we feel like that's something that we need to do our very best to model. Even though we're a human organization and we are not perfect, we do want to be a good model and a good encourager of high civil standards in our community. And so that's one of the things that I appreciate so much about Anderson University, is that not everyone on this campus agrees about every issue. It could be any kind of issue. It could be a political issue, a theological issue, or just a current events type of issue. We don't all agree, and we don't want everyone to necessarily agree. But we do want to be able to practice the art and the grace of being civil with one another, and being able to disagree with one another without being uncivil. And I think that's one of the ways that Anderson University's students will contribute to a better South Carolina and a better America, and hopefully a better world, is by producing graduates who understand that they are to be independent thinkers. We don't want everyone to think exactly the same, but we do want them to practice civility and the ability to work with others to find win-win solutions for a world that has many great needs.